The following episode is brought to you by Poison City Brewing, proud makers of Durban Poison Cannabis Lager, the beer that invites you to live your poison.
How's it going, guys? You got myself, Nasiphi, Zwane, back again with another episode of Sludge Underground. It is no different this week. We're bringing you, one of the best bands in the country. These guys have been together for a very long time, and we are basically going to be learning, more about them tonight. And I'm just going to let my co-host introduce himself, and then we will basically proceed with learning about the band.
Yeah, what's up? My name is Marcel, and I'm also a host of Sludge Underground, talking with, once again, one of my favorite bands in the country. Guys, introduce yourselves.
What's up, guys? I am Nick. I'm part of the band Climate Control.
Hey, and I'm Ricky. I play drums for Climate Control.
No, that's great. Guys, Naz is right in saying that you guys have been around for quite some time. I'm looking here, and you were founded in 2008.
Yeah, it's been a minute. It started off as just like a pretty chilled high school band. Just jamming with Luca, because he and I kicked it off back then. And I think it was either 2008 or 2009 when we had our first proper show. I think that was at I think it was Lido Hotel or something like that. But I actually lied. Sorry, that was our first mainstream sort of scene show, and our first show was at a Battle of the Bands thing at a church, which was actually pretty amazing. Still one of my finest moments, I think, or our finest moments, causing a mosh pit in a church when we covered an Under Oath song. That was incredible.
I'm just imagining a mosh pit in a church as a very interesting thing. Did you guys not get any sort of backlash? Was this just an outside party using the church as a venue, or was this hosted by the church itself?
I don't think the church was directly involved in organizing it, but the main hall was the venue for it. And thankfully we weren't the only band of that kind of genre there, but I think we were the heaviest. But everything was a very punk rock vibe, and all of the older folks were you could just see the concern on their faces, but it was amazing.
I can only imagine. Now, speaking about you guys being a heavier band, you've had a bit of I guess I could call it a genre shift over time. If I'm not mistaken, you guys started out as either a 5-piece or a 4-piece band, and you are now a 3-piece, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so there's been a couple of changes along the way. We started off as a 4-piece, and then we've had a couple of member changes along the years. And at one point we were a 5-piece, and now it's technically the three of us. Myself, Ricky, and Luca on guitar as well. Basically genre-wise has never, I don't know, the change has never been something that we've pre-planned or has been dictated by the amount of members or the actual members at any specific time. But we've just kind of done what's excited us, whatever has been the next thing that's cool for us and that feels the best to actually go ahead with when we're performing and writing. That's kind of just the direction we've always gravitated towards.
It's cool. It's a more of a subtle shift as you guys, develop and grow as musicians. I think it's something perfectly natural. I wouldn't say that the change is bad. I've actually thoroughly enjoyed from the earlier stuff to what you guys are doing now. I think the first sort of big change I saw was Little Mess, which honestly still a job on that music video, by the way. And
thanks.
Also, I think it's Ghost. You guys have recently released, though. There was Feeler, and then there was the one that you guys let me check out as well. That was also pretty incredible.
Thanks so much.
Just going back to what you guys were talking about, I want to put this into perspective, is that in 2008, I was still in grade 7. At that point, I knew jack shit about the alternative music scene. I want you guys to sort of walk me through what it was like being musicians in 2008 compared to now.
Oh, man.
So I think Nick will have to take that one, because I was actually still in grade 8 back then. So
Ricky, we were in the same boat there. Yes, I was too. I also knew nothing about music to add to Naz as well.
Yeah, it's a interesting one, because I think Ricky will have an interesting perspective too, because he was in a different band before joining us called Urban Vitamin. So he'll have his own perspective of like joining the scene from his band and stuff like that. But from our side, I just remember back then, before we started playing and before the band was like a proper thing, I just remember that was sort of like a peak for the local like alternative and metal scene. Like I remember, I would say like from between 2007 and 2009, there was this like palpable energy at shows. Like when you went to, especially venues like Tempos and stuff like that, there was like a raw energy in events like that. You know, you would go there and see a metal band playing on stage with a gigantic crowd, and everyone is like fully into the scene. It's like that was kind of like the peak moments. I think that was one of the times where we kind of used that energy to go ahead with what our vision was for creating this band and what we wanted to do with it. So yeah, kicking into the scene from then, it was a mad exciting time. I mean, there was a lot of bands pushing the boundaries with genres, and shows were pumping, and there was like a really cool energy, you know. And it was quite intimidating actually to get into the scene, because we were super like noob, you know, like we knew nothing about how the scene worked and how to get shows and how to go about like marketing ourselves and like putting ourselves out there. Everything was just very it was like jump in, get right into the deep end kind of situation.
Yeah, just dive straight
Sorry
in.
to interrupt, bro. Yeah, sorry to interrupt you. That must have been around the time when like the Coca-Cola Dome used to have like these big shows, and like MCAR was still like a big thing, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, like I think it was like 2007-ish when there were shows at the Coke Dome, like Fall Out Boy coming over, and even the Coke Fests. I mean, those Coke Fests were mind blowing. If you think back to the lineups that came through,
Sure.
and how many international bands were on those lineups, and the quality of the band. I mean, good Lord, you don't really hear about that kind of thing now. You know, like locally there'll be, I guess, there's festivals like Opikopi and stuff, but like Coke Fest had like 5 or 6 international headliners in one evening. It was mind blowing.
You know, I think it's brilliant that, you know, it's you guys, we've got the likes of, you know, artists like you, bro, who have sort of time traveled or been through it all, you know, seen how the scene has sort of shifted. You know, Ricky, on your end, bro, Nick did mention that you were in a band prior. I think he called it Urban Vitamin.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, bro. Tell us a bit more about that. And what I want to know from you is, what is it that you took from Urban Vitamin? Or something that you took with you that you sort of use, you know, moving forward to grow yourself as an artist and maybe incorporate into future bands?
Cool. Well, I mean, what's weird about my beginning in the sort of music, in the like alternative scene, was that I had never been to an actual local show before I joined the band. So the first show I attended was the first show that I actually ended up playing. So I had no idea what to expect. So I ended up playing my first show at this place called Shiva's, which has since, I don't know if it's still going.
No, Shiva's is long dead, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, yeah. Which was probably the worst start to have. Because, like I said, I had no idea what to expect going in. So when I arrived at Shiva's to play there, I was like, what the fuck is this place? It felt gross just walking on the ground in the place, but looking back, it was a really cool start. And my time in Urban Vitamin was a lot of fun, and I had a lot of cool experiences with my bandmates, and I learned a lot, having not been in like a proper gigging band before. And I think that equipped me pretty well for going into climate control, which is obviously which is obviously one of the more sort of established bands in the scene. So I just learned in my time in Urban Vitamin that you got to work hard, and my attitude towards things was to, I suppose, just to practice as hard and often as I could to make sure that I could sort of. My goal was to be better than everyone, and not that I'm saying that I am, but like that was my ambition, and that's the kind of goal that I'm always working towards. That I think that held me in good stead when I auditioned for climate control.
Yeah, that's very good. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, bro. Just to conclude on what Nick was saying in terms of just comparing what the scene was like back in the day. We know we did say it was like a booming scene. Everything was like hectic. What about now, bro? You're looking at now. What are sort of your guys' opinions on how it's sort of shaped now and your guys' experience, as climate control in 2020 and in more recent times?
I think it's kind of mixed. It's something that I've really love to see is more international bands coming over, and festivals like Ramfest coming back. And obviously before COVID hit, all the cranked ups that were happening, that was really cool to see. But then on the other hand, you've got local shows which I thought were maybe struggling for a while in the past few years. A lot of the shows that I attended were kind of quiet a lot of the time, but then whenever there's an international act, they seem to be very well attended, which was always confusing to me because I always liked the idea that people would support local bands consistently, but that never seemed to be the case, and I'm not really sure why. So it's kind of mixed,
Yeah, it's a tough one. I think obviously there's like kind of less local venues for alternative music now than there has ever been, and that puts an extra strain on local alternative bands and artists because those are some of the only avenues really for them to spread their music, and also when it comes to the costs of touring and all that kind of thing, it's pretty intense to deal with. I think that's one of my regrets, I think, in general, is not touring in as much as I would have liked to into different parts of the country and stuff like that. But yeah, cost-wise, it is tricky. And I think to get the scene to a place where it was is also a tough challenge because if you look at like Ricky said, there's that perception of like, I don't want to use the word better, but like people, you know what I mean? They'll completely freak out and come to a show when there's international bands playing, but it's quite a bit tougher to get people to alternative or heavier shows if it's just local artists. And I don't know if that's a perception thing based on like international bands being more worth paying the admission for, or that they're better, or you know what I mean? There's a lot of factors to it, and then internationally, like the popularity of rock versus other things that are more booming right now. There's like a lot of factors in play, so I don't actually know what the answer is in terms of getting things to a place where they're kind of like where they were in that era. It's a tough one.
Yeah, I definitely think it's something that comes in waves because you'll find that maybe if around that time, the alternative, music was at its peak, as you say, and then now you'd probably say it's house music or gqom or something, and then maybe in the next 10 years it's going to be something else. So I completely understand why you'd say, that there's no like proper answer to it. Marcel, I don't know if you share the same sentiments on your side, bro.
Yeah, it's interesting with the where the music scene has come to and like where it's come from. Like as Naz was saying, what we were saying is that in 2008, I knew absolutely nothing about the local music scene. I mean, I didn't even know that Prime Circle was a local band at that time. And it was only when I started playing music, which was much later, which was about 2010, 2011, that I started realizing more about the local scene. And it's kind of that became one of my biggest inspirations with it and being drawn into it. And a lot of people don't look at it that way. They will always look at something from the outside being greater, as that's the way that it gets marketed to them. There's always, because there's a budget, there's marketing, there's great this and that, they will always have, how do I say, more of a hype for an international artist than a local one. And that's something that unfortunately we just have to deal with over time as we build bigger reputations for ourselves and sort of grow the infrastructure as musicians. That's a big part of what we're trying to do, is just try and give that groundwork so that the artists have a platform to talk about who they are and what they do.
Yeah, for sure. And it's a hectic sense of frustration for me sometimes well, actually a lot of the time, because of the quality of things that are coming out of South Africa. I mean, if you look at any playlist, for example, that has a whole bunch of different music from South African artists, no matter the genre, the quality is incredible. You know, it's not a case at all of things from our area not being of the same standard as artists from other countries. I think South African artists most certainly have a voice and something to offer, you know?
Yeah, I mean, like, if I look at having seen you guys live, now the last time I saw you guys live was about 4 years ago before I left Joburg. And you guys had one of the best live sounds I'd ever heard in terms of, as a guitarist myself, as in terms of guitar tones, just general sound as a band. It was absolutely unbelievable. And that's, once again, people are sort of blind to the talent and the level of quality that we have coming out of the country.
Oh, damn. That's really awesome to hear. Thanks, man.
Yo, 100% agree with what all of you guys are saying. In fact, when you mentioned that, you know, if you had to compare the quality of stuff that is coming out of South Africa with stuff that is being made overseas, I concur with that because, you know, I just look at, you know, tracks like Little Mess and, you know, the video as well, like what Marcel was mentioning earlier, and how, you know, the quality of that is like international standard. And even speaking of that now, taking it into 2020, you know, with, you know, Master of None, you know, I remember when I was listening to that for the first time, I thought to myself, in actual fact, Marcel is the one that, you know, introduced me to you guys. And I was just like, dude, are you being for real? Like, are these guys actually from South Africa? That's how much I feel like, you know, South African artists and bands, you know, the movie directors and everyone is sort of caught up to, you know, the people or to what people are doing overseas. So walk us through, you know, what sort of went into making a song like Master of None, bro. Like, in terms of production, how did you guys get it to sound so, you know, to give it that sort of international sound? Does that boil down to maybe how you guys, you know, do your vocals, how you guys, you know, mess with the guitar tone? Is it the guy behind the sound desk? You know, break it down for us.
So there's actually quite a lot of factors involved in the way these tracks came out, because we did it a sort of similar way to our previous album, Equals Not. So all of these new singles that we're putting out are completely self-recorded and produced. I've just got like a fairly basic home studio setup, and COVID and lockdown and everything added an extra layer of difficulty onto that, because now we couldn't record and jam and stuff together like we usually do. So it was an extra struggle there, but we had a lot of sort of sessions like this where we're talking to, like, I would be on a session with Ricky just chatting over like a couple of drum pieces and stuff. And these songs, I feel like all of these singles that we're putting out now, the series of 4 singles, I think have a very, very distinct sound to them, especially because of Ricky's input on the drums. Like, having him fully behind the decisions on all of the drum sections in all of these songs has like given them a completely different and unique flavor, and his influence, you know, into the songwriting for this. But yeah, we've basically from both a budget standpoint and from a not being able to do anything in other studios and stuff, we just decided to take everything into our own hands again, with the production wise, and do pretty bare bones, and then we got the songs mastered by Clint Watts, who is our like longtime producer from literally the first ever days of the band. He recorded our first ever like demo stuff back when we started in like 2008, 2009. And yeah, we've always worked with him whenever we can, because he's, I think, one of the best producers in the country, and he's like mind blowing with his insight and skill, like behind, you know, like he can just hear things that no one can hear in a piece of audio, you know. So he comes at things with a very unique perspective. So that's basically how we did these new singles. It was like completely isolated recording at home, and then Clint helped us out with mastering the songs. And yeah, pretty glad with how they came out.
I never would have thought really is. Sorry, do you want to go ahead?
No, continue, okay. Please, bro.
I think something also important to note is that before we, at the beginning of the process of writing these 4 songs, we also decided that like nothing was off the table, and that we would, consider trying new things as well. And that is quite evident with the four new songs that we'll be releasing, having released 2 of them already, especially Feeler. That's completely different from anything Climate Control's done before. And then Master of None also it's quite different. It's very heavy on the synths. Like I remember discussing kind of using the synths more in the foreground as opposed to kind of background and as almost like a filler. And I think experimentation was a large part of writing these 4 songs. And also wanted to say that a huge amount of credit should go to Nick as well, because the production, obviously apart from the mastering, which was done by Clint, was all done by Nick, and I think he did a stellar job on them, and they're sounding really good because of all the work he's done on them, So I think he deserves a lot of the credit for that.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, like 100%.
Man.
In what you were saying there, sorry, Marcel, bro, before I come to you, in what you were saying, Ricky, in that, you guys have released, both tracks, Feeler and Master of None, and that you plan on releasing 2 more. This reminds me of one of the interviews we had with Josh Scott, and he was basically telling us that, there was a time when gangsters they were going to release like 4 EPs or something like that and sort of break them down. And he said in the end, it wasn't really the best sort of, decision. What sort of inspired you guys to take or go for this sort of broken up approach as opposed to just releasing just a 4-track EP or something? Would you say maybe lockdown had an effect? Like what were the powers at play here?
Yeah, I think lockdown probably did play a role in that. But I also think that there's something cool about the singles approach, because you can give each track its sort of due attention at a time. Sometimes I think, like when we dropped our previous album Equals Not, it's really awesome. Like I really love having a full length album. To me, that's still the best way to listen to music. But I think it can get it's a bit sad sometimes when a song that you think had a particular like thing to it, but it doesn't get its due attention among the full product or the full album as an experience. So I think there's something cool about that approach that we kind of just went with, focusing on singles. And also, like, none of these tracks were all written within maybe like a year to a year and a half space, but none of them, we never really ever had a plan to like group them together as like a unified thing. I think they each have a very distinct feeling and a different, completely different vibe in a way.
And, that's 100%, bro. It makes a lot of sense. Mossy?
So now, Ricky was saying that this was all produced by you, Nick, that you, I'm assuming, handled you guys recorded in isolation, and did you do the mixes together and just put everything together and then send it off to mastering from there?
Pretty much, yeah. I would just, so, because all of us have full-time jobs as well, so all of this, I just, as soon as I'm done working, then I'll jump onto the music side of things and smash out weekends and that kind of thing. But basically just record everything in my basic studio setup, and then just like hourlessly sort of like chop away at the mixing and leveling and effects and that kind of thing, and then just drop new bounces through to the band the whole time to just get their thoughts and see if they like the direction it's going or if they've got any thoughts and stuff like that. So, but yeah, obviously it would have been cool to do that together in the same space, but it had to be just like as virtual as possible.
Yeah, considering the times. That's incredible though. Like, I would never have guessed based on the sound of them. They sound incredibly professional. You've done an amazing job with it. So I would never have guessed that this was done, once again, recorded in isolation and mixed by you personally and then sent through for mastering. That just makes it all the more impressive, really.
Thanks so much. Yeah, that's awesome to hear.
It's not the first time I've heard someone mention, you said it was Nick, Clinton or Watts?
Clint Watts, yeah. I think his studio is Watts Audio Recording production. Well, it was Watts production, but I think it's Watts audio recording.
Yeah, you're not the first guys to say that he is phenomenal at what he does, and I can, from the quality of work that I've heard put out by the man himself as well, is just unbelievable. Like, he's probably one of the best in the scene, in the industry.
Yeah, he's mind blowing. He's got a very unique approach to music, and he's like the vibe that he creates in studio is very. I mean, he's got like I said, his ear is second to none, but also his insight into like hearing the song from a different perspective and from a top view. So like he can give insights and opinions and suggestions that you would have never thought of sometimes, and that make the world of difference. It's amazing and you also feel really comfortable recording with him, because he's quite grueling. Like he won't let a sloppy take slip through the cracks, like, yeah, he'll make sure that he gets the best out of everyone, but he never does it in a way that makes you feel like start doubting yourself and feeling like really shit, like he's creates a really collaborative and encouraging atmosphere.
That's absolutely wonderful. It's always good to have how do I say, someone working on it that one can be that outside perspective and have the insights to make a good difference. It really sets like a studio apart from the rest. Before we carry on, there's one thing I do want to point out, that Zoom does have a time limit with these meetings. This one's got about 4 minutes left. Once it finishes, we will fire up another one. I'll send through another invite via email, and we'll just carry on from there. We'll splice the two together when we edit. Yeah, so don't worry. It's not like you have 4 minutes left of this. Me and Naz did fire it up before we invited you and just had a chat beforehand. Now, before I pass over to Naz,
perfect.
Nick, I just wanted to find out. So you obviously do vocals, and from when I knew the band from watching live, you played guitar, but you're currently playing bass in a live aspect, if I'm not mistaken.
So at the moment, it's all like when we play live, it's always been Luca and myself on guitar, and then for just for recording purposes now, I've handled like my guitar parts and just done the bass for the recording side of things. So not necessarily for live stuff.
Okay, so are you guys currently looking for a bassist, or have you guys got someone that you could have in mind to be sessioning for you, or various guys?
Not really at the moment. I think we got Brendan from Yubi and the Harmony to play. He was awesome in helping us out with our last 2 or 3 shows before lockdown came and destroyed everything. So he was amazing to jam with, and he picked the songs up so fast. It was amazing. But yeah, at the moment we don't really necessarily have plans to immediately start looking for someone yet. I think we're just kind of playing it by ear and seeing where things go with how the world is transpiring.
That's cool, man. Brendan is a fantastic bassist. I mean, we had Yumi and the Harmony on the show recently, and he's a damn good bassist. And what I wanted to ask is, obviously, if it was Wesley, correct, your previous bassist?
Yeah.
Now, Wesley handled a lot of like the heavier vocals, the screams and stuff like that, and I'm assuming he was one of the original members of the band as well.
So we actually had a bassist, our original bassist, jammed with us for, I think it was about 2 years. And then he left in, I think it was either 2009 or 2010, around about there. And then we actually jammed as a 3-piece for like half a year. And then Wes joined us on bass around about that time.
Like what sort of impact? Now, what I want to ask is that, how much did Wesley contribute to songwriting, and what impact did it have on the band, having someone that sort of integral in the band actually step away?
I'll just touch on this briefly, and then Ricky can add his perspective in it. But I think what we've always done is to try and keep like all opinions on the table, when it comes to writing. So from my side, I can be quite like focused on an idea, because when something forms in my head, I have a very like concrete way of how I picture it going. But I always try to make sure that like that's not necessarily that's what goes. Like everyone needs to have their
it's not
their
like a
input and say-
dictatorship sort of thing. It's everyone
always
has a
trying to
say.
keep pretty much make sure that there's everyone's voice is getting through. And I think now especially has been quite awesome with these new tracks because with Ricky's take on the drums for these new songs, he's really added his flair into these parts, and I think it's made all the difference.
No, that's fantastic, man. Naz?
Just looking at something that Nick said earlier, he dropped there that you do have full-time jobs, and it just makes me think. We've seen so many bands rise and fall in the South African music scene, and you'll find that their setup was one where they've got 9 to 5s and then they do the band thing sort of as a hobby or like part-time and whatnot, and eventually shit gets so hectic the bands end up sort of just fizzing out or something. So what is it that you guys have been doing? What's your secret ingredient in terms of keeping the band going this long, while also having to commit to your 9 to 5 sort of jobs and stuff?
Well, I think so. I can't speak for the rest of the guys for the past 10 years, but for the last 2 that I've been part of the band, I think it's just about remaining committed no matter what, because it is very difficult. There's never enough time in the day to do everything you want to do. So no matter how difficult it becomes, I think you just have to remain committed, and I think that's largely driven by your passion for it. Because without that excitement, I don't think you a person would be able to put it off, and I'm sure that's why a lot of bands sort of fizzle out. Because I think in the long term, I think it probably wears on you a bit, and it can be quite wearisome at times when you've got a lot going on. So preparing for shows, especially big ones like the Crown the Empire show at the beginning of this year, was quite rough leading up to that point because we needed to find a bassist. Luckily, we were able to take Brendan on, and then we had to practice multiple times a week to get to prepare for the show, because obviously he had to learn all the songs and we had to make sure we were able to get through them, and we also had to prepare all the new songs that we wanted to play, which at that point they were still in their very early phases. So I was actually very anxious about playing them live for the first time. But again, the excitement of being able to play at that show is what drove me, at least, and I'm sure drove the other guys. So I think it's just remaining committed no matter what. It's a lot of hard work, and you just have to kind of stick to it.
Nick, do you echo sort of the same?
I think so. I think there's something about at least from my perspective, like the passion for music is like a diehard thing where I don't think that I would actually probably be able to survive without making music. So when it comes to the band and just making music in general, like I will make a plan above almost anything to get it done, because for me it's something that is like the passion above all for me, and something that is the most gratifying to do. So I think, when it comes to something that drives you that much, like, you'll put the extra effort and time in to get it done, no matter if that means like, working until like 12-1 in the morning every night during a week just to like get things done. It's it's the drive that keeps you going.
Ricky, what you said there about Crown the Empire, bro, and how it was such a hectic time. How did you guys sort of mentally prepare yourself for such, playing alongside, one of the biggest bands, and one of the best bands in the world? Like, what goes into, the preparations of that?
Just lots of hard work, lots of practice. Like we mentioned, we were lucky enough to have Brendan join us on bass. So it was a lot of preparation, trying to get ready, making sure we, could play the songs together. And for me, I was very nervous leading up to that show, because it's a lot of pressure, and you want to perform well, especially for the bigger crowds. Just a lot of preparation, and I think the nerves they help a lot, weirdly enough, because they're also a driving force. They make you practice harder, I think.
Yeah, I can only imagine, the pressure and sort of the mental preparation, and yeah. But I think you guys, having been a band for such a long time, I believe it's like second nature. Just going on stage, it was probably just another gig, except in the presence of one of the biggest bands. But yeah, Marcy, your side, bro.
No, I can definitely relate to the passion being a huge driving factor, because that question of how do you handle a full-time job and still manage to be a working musician as well, is because there's no other way of putting it. When you're putting that much work into it, if you're playing shows, you're releasing music, you are definitely considered a working musician. And there is no other thing other than passion that would make you do something like that, because it can be a slog sometimes. It is a lot of work. I don't think people realize how much work goes into it. I mean, just sitting, recording, mixing, that's hours of work, and it's not glamorous work. It is frustrating, nitty-gritty work.
Pretty much, yeah.
Like it's yeah, I can 100% relate to that. Now, I've got a bit of a out of left field question here, considering the topic that we've been on. I've been trying to find it again, but I can't seem to. I remember finding this video. I'm pretty sure it was of you guys playing on either YoTV or something like that, but like from 2009.
Oh, damn. Yes, that was the acoustic song?
Yes. So I'm not imagining things because I cannot find it anymore. But
I'll drop you a link to it afterwards. I'm pretty sure it's still on our channel, but it was on KTV.
Yes, KTV, yes.
Yeah.
I remember it being one of the variations of one of the kids' things. And I remember finding this video and being like, how did this even come about?
Yeah, that was a good time. That was we've actually done 2 separate instances of live TV like performance, and both times I think I have probably taken weeks off my life due to stress, because there's just so much that can go wrong. It's just good. Yeah, those aren't the most fun, because it's just the pressure is like unbelievable.
No, I can imagine. So if that was the first one, what was the second?
I'm not sure which one was first or second, but the other one was I don't know if you guys remember, there was a show called TGL. It was a DSTV channel. I can't remember exactly, One Gospel Live or something like that, but it was TGL, Teen Gospel Live. And they used to have a lot of musicians come on the show, and then sometimes they had international artists come on and stuff. So like, I know when Under Oath came to SA and they played their tour, Under Oath went on the show and did a whole interview and stuff like that. So we got onto the show to do like an interview and a live performance. And yeah, that one was a full band set. So that wasn't an acoustic setup. And yeah, I mean, I can't actually tell you. The pressure is something else. We actually I have a distinct memory of. I'm sure I'll probably wake up in cold sweats sometimes just thinking about this. But like, there was a couple of moments where before we actually started playing, we didn't know whether whether we were live or not. So the camera dudes and the sound guys and everyone in front of us, everything just went dead silent. Basically, like, ready for the song to start. But I was frantically searching for someone to give us the signal that, like, start or something, and nothing was coming. And I was just standing there like,
it's a nightmare.
This is literally deer in headlights. Like, I didn't know what was happening. And eventually I just like turned around and looked at the guys and I just nodded. I was like, whatever, just start the song. I don't care what happens now.
all the best, boys. No, I didn't go back like far enough. I found it again. Like, Nick, how old were you when this happened? Like, I can just imagine the stress at that age. Like,
yeah, I think that must have been 2010. So I was 20 then, yeah.
Like, it's still pretty stressful. Like, and we're not not knowing at that point, not knowing what was actually going on.
And we were pretty inexperienced then as well. Like, I think it went off pretty well, but I think the stress was because of also not really having a clue how how this kind of setup works usually, and also like I was also, I think I was a bit stressed at the time of them sort of like being shocked at the heaviness of the track and stuff like that. So there was quite a few different things in play there, but it was actually an awesome experience overall.
No, that's so
what
cool,
would
man.
what would you say makes all the pressure that you talk about, bro? Is it more because the almost the entirety of South Africa, had their eyes on you, or is it sort of like some behind the scenes stuff that goes on? Like, where does the pressure stem from when it comes to like performing on national TV?
I think it's just it's like a fear of, like, I know Ricky will be able to speak to this as well, but it's a fear of messing up on your part, because like both he and I are extremely self-critical when it comes to like making mistakes live and just in general, So I think just the fact that it's on live TV adds an extra layer of chaos to that, because like if you do mess up, it's there and it's on record and everyone's seen it at the same time. Like live shows can be maybe a little bit more forgiving because it's it's so loud and there's so much chaos going on and whatnot. So that just adds an extra layer to it. But I mean, I don't know. How's it for you, Ricky, in general, when it comes to like the pre-performance stress?
Sure, that messes me up, especially at the bigger show. And I don't know if I could handle like a live performance on TV. You're gonna have to call someone else that day. I hate it.
I agree with Ricky on this one.
Yeah, for me, I'm at my worst at live shows. It's like a love-hate relationship because it's fun, but I'm also just can't relax, and I struggle to get into it no matter what. It's always tough for me, and like it says, I'm always very harsh on myself during and afterwards.
Yo, we can all imagine how that rolls out. I wanna just check with you guys. If you had to go back to now, obviously we're in 2020 now. If Nick and Ricky could go back to Nick and Ricky in 2008, what would you guys sort of tell them about what to expect, or rather about the music scene and the current states it is in, and the band in general, and what you guys needed to do to get where you are? What sort of advice would you guys give yourselves if you had to time travel back to 2008 where everything started? Well, Ricky, you said you joined 2 years back, so for you with Urban Vitamin, what is it that you go back and tell yourself?
To go back and tell myself to keep going, and that all the hard work you put in, like it can pay off if you just keep going and work hard, and just to not give up, contrary to what people might say, like you can achieve some amazing things that you set your mind to, something very simple and basic like that.
Yeah, Nick?
I think I've said this recently to the guys actually, but I feel like in a way, I know if I'd said this to my younger self, it would have never worked anyway. But I think just to almost like reframe my idea of success, or what success is, because I'm someone who's like perpetually unsatisfied. Like I'm never happy with you know what I mean? Like if we drop a song, I don't think it was big enough, or I think that if I look back at a mix, for example, or something like a lead guitar piece I wrote or whatever, I'm like, that could have been a bit better. I'm just perpetually unsatisfied from that sense. And I think that can add like a bit of a dampener to things when it comes to actually enjoying what we do and why we make music, and being in the moment. So I think I would probably tell my younger self to just like enjoy the moments more and the little things, and also just to like reframe the idea of success that enjoy the things that you actually have achieved, as opposed to like just immediately being like on to the next one or something else or bigger.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense like that, bro. Just one last question on my end. When, just looking at all the achievements that you guys have had, since you guys started, I was checking out there, you guys have been, charting, in iTunes, in the South African rock charts there. I think you've had like 3 of your songs on there, and you guys have been put into the South African Rock Essentials on Spotify. With all the success and sort of playing alongside some of the biggest bands of the world and everything that you guys have done. When you first started out the band in 2008, did you guys ever expect that it would have this much of an impact down the line? Or was it more just like, hey, whatever goes, we have no specific goal? Like walk me through that.
Sure. I mean, yeah, I don't think we ever had that kind of expectation. For me, it was always just if we would become the biggest band in the world, that would be like the ultimate goal. But I don't think we ever planned to hit specific things. It was just a case of like make what we're passionate about and what we think is something that is representative of who we are and the best that we can create, and put it out there and see what happens, but always just kind of following that thread of like what we're passionate about and what we feel best about creating.
It's a cool
100%, bro. Yeah, Marcy.
Like, I'm not sure how to phrase this question. Like, you guys obviously love the music you make. What would you say are some of your favorite moments in your music? So in terms of your favorite songs or certain sections that, stand out to you. I know that it's really difficult to sort of rank your own music as to what is the favorite, but is there any particular songs that stand out to each of you as something that had a particularly greater meaning than the rest?
Let me think about this one, actually. Do you want to go first, Ricky?
Sure. For me, probably one of my favorite Climate Control songs is Ghosts. And I say that as the current drummer, but also as a previous fan of the band before I joined. Whenever I watch Climate Control at live shows, that was always my favorite song to watch them perform. And I always have one specific memory of watching them perform Ghosts live at Cranked Up a couple of years back, and it's just I love that song from the first time I heard it, and being able to play it myself at live shows, that's been a very sort of special thing for me, just because of how much I love that song. And now that I've been able to play it live myself and enjoy it as part of the band, that's always something very significant to me. And yeah, there always will be.
Is that the one with that bridge that
Yes, yeah.
I fucking love that song, man. It's such a cool song. I fucking love that bridge.
The bouncy bridge.
Yeah, man, It's such a cool thing. The lyric, you guys did a lyric video for that as well.
Yes, yeah.
It's such a cool song all around, like lyrically, musically. I honestly love it. Fanboying aside, Nick, what's your song?
It's actually tough to say because there's parts and moments from everything, and obviously I love everything we've put out, but I would say that the ones that immediately come to mind, Tidal Wave for me was one of our best things that we put out. I just love the textures and the layering in that song, especially if you really listen with headphones and stuff. Clint, when we were in the studio with Clint working on that song, the last chorus, there's so many things that we added in there where there's underlying 3-part harmonies, and there's 4 different orchestral pieces going, and there's so the crescendo that it hits is just I absolutely love the emotional height that gets to. And I also really love the song Preludium from our first album, Preludes. There's some, I feel in terms of riffs, specific memorable riffs and stuff, I think those are some of my favorite riffs that I've written in that song. And then I think the new 4 singles that we're dropping now, we've got the 4th one that's coming out, which I think could be up there for me with the tidal waves and stuff in terms of the the emotional scale and stuff, but also this. I'm quite proud of how the song is turning out. I was actually literally just working on some of the vocals now before we started chatting to you guys, and also the way that song hits a crescendo and a peak towards the end with the emotion and the arrangement. That one hits me in a specific spot as well.
That's cool.
Can I add to the parts?
Yeah.
Quickly. Sorry, I just thought of it now while Nick was speaking. But there's two songs or two parts from two songs from the Equals Not album that I always have the most fun playing live. There's like almost like a breakdown part in the song called After the Fall. That's always so much fun to play live. Also because it's a bit of a difficult section to play. So I always have a lot of fun playing that live because it's also
really intense.
It's also a part where I can play like quite aggressively as well, which I enjoy doing the most as well. And then there's the song. Yeah, and then there's the song. I can never pronounce it correctly, but it's called Kodokishi. I think that's pronounced correctly.
Yeah.
The intro and outro of that song also is just the most fun thing to play for me live.
That's so cool, man. Like it's interesting, Ricky. Like your perspective of now having one being a fan of the band, and then now two being a member of it and actually playing these things. It must add such an interesting. Well, for the sake of this interview, it's added a very interesting perspective. You've had to look at songs from a perspective of someone who's enjoyed listening to them, and then as a musician who's been playing them, which I think is a really cool perspective.
Yeah, for sure. It was quite strange, like it's not something I ever thought could happen. Because there's a lot. It's been a very weird but also really cool experience going from being a fan to being part of the band. It's been really cool.
Naz.
Yeah, bro. I want to just bring in, like a little, just final points on my end. A little therapy session. I always come through with these therapy session type questions, and I want to just know, Nick, what is it that you enjoy most about working with Ricky? And Ricky, what is it that you enjoy most about working with Nick?
Nothing. He's terrible. I think the coolest part of working with Ricky is that he has, his ideas are always very unique, and the perspective that he has on the sound of things is quite unique. So that all of these drum flourishes and touches that he's added, especially to these new songs, has. For me, I feel like it's like we've reached the best point that we've ever been at in terms of how all of the songs arrangements work together and the uniqueness of his flair behind the kit. I think that's really awesome, and you can just tell that he has that proper, like, pure passion for his instrument and for making this music. So I think that's always an awesome part of working with Ricky. Yeah.
That's really nice. Thank you.
Ricky,
for me, it's a combination of things. I think Nick is probably one of the best songwriters that I've ever known, and that makes it both easy and extremely difficult to when working on the songs, because it's easy because they're so much fun to play and they're exciting, and that drives the passion. But it's difficult because you also want to kind of maintain that sort of level, for these new songs, I've been so paranoid about sort of ruining them by kind of playing something that might not be quite as good, or something that's not good enough, and I've been racking my brain for months trying to come up with shit that's like perfect for each song. So it's easy and difficult in those ways. And also his dedication. I think in the band, Nick works harder than everyone else, for all the reasons that we've discussed as in this like interview thing. So I think it's the combination of those two things. He's an amazing songwriter, an amazing performer, and he works harder than all of us.
Oh
Yeah,
man.
that is teary-eyed and everything. This is really beautiful, guys. It's showing what sort of that you guys get along so well.
Yeah, no, thanks, man. That's actually it's awesome to hear.
Like, guys, we pretty much know about the band from when it started and whatnot. We are going through a pandemic right now. I think your fans will also just want to know, in terms of what's next for you guys. What is it that we can expect? We do know that you guys have the 2 tracks that are going to be coming up as part of the 4 tracks that you guys are going to be releasing. What else can we expect? Even for the rest of 2020 or the rest of lockdown.
So at the moment, we're actually planning a music video to go with one of the next 2 songs that we're dropping. So that's still in the works. And at the moment, we don't necessarily have like a ton of plans outside of those. But yeah, we're putting basically all of our attention into those 2 new singles and the music video sort of concept. But yeah, it's basically taking all of our attention to drop these 2 songs because of how much effort we've put into them. Yeah, I think that when it comes to analyzing parts and redoing parts and trying different ideas and stuff, like we've never really worked harder than we have on these songs, just to craft them and get them to a point where almost like we've removed that'll never go away, but like to remove the part where you think that we could have tried something else there or pushed something a little bit further, So I think, yeah, I'm incredibly proud of these songs and how they've come out and for people to hear these next 2 in particular.
Can you guys give us any release dates in terms of when we can expect those 2 and the music videos as well?
We actually don't have a hard and fast plan with that. I mean, I know that pretty much I've got a bit of a backlog on my side because of the production, and I'm still busy finishing off lyrics for one of the songs. But yeah, at the moment, I think we're pretty confident that both of them will be out this year, but we don't have any dates set in stone yet.
Okay, no, it's set, bro. It's completely understandable. Mossy?
No, from my side, I've been, like I was saying, I've been a fan of the band for quite some time, and just hearing so much more perspective, actually getting to have a chat with you guys. I mean, the first song that I heard that got me into it, funny enough, when you were talking about preludes, Nick, is that the first song of yours that I heard was A Bouquet of Hate and An Ocean of Questions. So, that was my introduction to Climate Control. And getting to watch you guys evolve over this time, I'm really stoked for the releases and the things that are coming up. I'll be keeping an eye out for them.
Thanks, man. Yeah, really excited to drop these.
Now, my last question in this is that, having played so many shows, you guys have played festivals, you've played a variety of venues, you've played with international acts as well. Are there any shows that stand out to you as the greatest experience? Or most artists have multiple of these, but is there just that one, that golden moment that you will never forget?
It gets tough to remember sometimes because of everything just kind of like blurring into one, when you think about when you try and dig out certain memories. But one of the shows that for me was something that I'll never forget was the Our Last Night tour in 2017. We played the second Joburg leg at Arcade Empire, and that show was just insane. Like, the entire venue was packed right to the back. The atmosphere was mind-blowing. We were all basically dying of heat stroke, but like the atmosphere and the energy at that show, there was something about that show, man. Like that brings a smile to my face every single time I think about it. I nearly fell spectacularly during the one breakdown, and managed to like pull it off. And someone actually captured the exact moment when that happened, so that we've got like a cool GIF of that actually happening. There's like so many cool, memorable moments from that show. I think for me, that's one of the things that I look back to and like actually fuels me when I think about like that, why we keep doing this and the energy that you actually get at a live show. I think that was one of the best for me.
Not
For
Ricky?
me, it was when Our Last Night came back for a second time, because that was actually my first show with Climate Control at Carfax in Newtown. And that show was also, I think it was almost sold out. I think it was almost at full capacity. And that was my first show with the guys. So I was so excited, but I was also completely dreading it. And I was nervous.
I
But
can
it was,
imagine, man. For someone who suffers from
Yeah.
nerves, that must have been one hell of a dive into the deep end. I
yeah,
can.
no, I was. Yeah, the moments leading up to the actual performance, I was just, I couldn't sit still. I was just walking around. I was like pretending to stretch. I was just trying to keep myself like occupied, just because I couldn't sit still. But yeah, that was a highlight for me. Yeah,
I do not
definitely.
blame you, man. That's intense. Now,
Yeah.
where can people find you guys on social platforms? Or Naz, do you have any last questions?
Nah, dude, all good for me. Don't worry.
All right. So where can people find your music, find out more about you guys?
We're pretty much on all the things, all the streamings, Spotify, Apple Music, Deezer, all of those streaming platforms, and YouTube channel, and then most of the other social media. So we mostly use Instagram and Facebook, and we've got Twitter as well. But yeah, Bandcamp as well. So like I know a lot of people like Bandcamp because you can actually buy the music on there and get like the full high quality stuff. So we've made sure that we've got our full catalog on there as well.
No, that's fantastic.
That's sweet, bro. And just be just closing remarks. We just want to thank you guys, for coming through to the show and giving us, an hour or so of your time. We've learned a lot about you. I know Marcel's been like a long time fan. He introduced me to you guys, and I must say, just in this one episode, I'm really just privileged to have been able to sit down, talk to you guys, and learn a bit more about you. It's been really great, and I am officially a fan as well, and I will be definitely looking out for anything to come. And I think just in closing, you can catch this episode on SoundCloud. It is Sludge Underground Podcast, and obviously on Apple Music, it's Sludge Underground Podcast. Spotify, Sludge Underground Podcast. See us on social media. It's Facebook, or rather on Facebook, it's Sludge Underground. On Twitter, it's @Sludge031, and on Instagram, it's @Sludge Underground. As for myself, it's @Zwane031. Marcy, who are you online?
Right, guys, you can find me as Marcel Smuts on most platforms, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Check out the YouTube channel. I've done a couple of cool things. I've got a couple of cool things coming up there as well. And then Instagram is just Thorns of Sludge. And yeah, I post a lot of dumb shit there too. Come hang out.
Now, Climate Control, guys, which song do you reckon best represents you guys? I mean, a song that we can basically play out to. And just before that, I just remembered one thing. What is it behind Climate Control? What's the meaning behind that? That is like the first question we usually ask. I need to know before we close out what is behind the name.
Not much, to be honest. There's no big deep meaning behind the name. Like long story short, we basically, Luke and I in class, we basically just like jotted down a list of a bunch of names that we sound of, and we actually just passed it around a whole bunch of our classes to get people's votes and opinions and stuff. And this one ultimately ended up winning the voting stage of that. But yeah, there's no big deep meaning behind the name really. And yeah, obviously when you search for us on social, you can just disregard all of the air conditioning and climate activist organizations because that is not us.
Also, YouTube brings up a whole bunch of tutorials of how to actually use your aircon, which is fantastic.
Yeah. It's a bit of an SEO nightmare, but yeah.
Which song of yours would you guys like for us to close out with? One that best represents you, or your favorite one?
Oof. Do you want to choose, Ricky?
Well, my favorite song and the one that best represents us is probably two different songs. I think maybe in terms of representation, maybe Tidal Wave, I suppose, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, probably Tidal Wave.
Yeah.
All right, sweet. Then that's what we're going to do, guys. We'd like to thank you guys again for joining us on the show. We're going to be closing out with Tidal Wave. Guys, thank you. Anyone who's listening, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, it's Tidal Wave by Climate Control. It's bye for now.
You